cynically, I want to talk about the unfairness point that you brought up with regard to her not being a gamer, but cynically, I, we're probably in a political moment where if Microsoft did decide, you know what, we're going to just make all of the stuff that we said that we told the FTC was going to be multi-platform, we're just going to make it exclusive, and they probably wouldn't really suffer any consequences in the current kind of.
I see where you're going.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that would or should happen.
I know
I'm
what you
just
mean.
saying, like, if they decided, you know what, we're a $4 trillion company.
A little changing of the guard of the FTC, right?
We're just not gonna forget that. We're just gonna make all this stuff exclusive. But anyway, yeah, the fact that she's not a gamer and doesn't know games at yet, it is a little unfair. It's just because, as Michael was noting, there have been a lot of great examples of very successful game industry CEOs who are not gamers. I mean, Michael, you were laughing a little bit about Kotick, who's like probably the most extreme example of
the worst.
Sort of he almost like relished not being a gamer, but steered Activision to become one of the most successful businesses. I think it's really only because Asha is following Phil, the one gaming CEO who really was a hardcore gamer. And like my advice, which obviously probably shouldn't ever be listened to by someone at that high of a level, would be stay off of social media. Do
not engage.
Do not. It's just the risks far outweigh the rewards. But was out there on, again, we broke this story on Friday, and then on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, over the weekend, she was out there responding to a bunch of people on social, just with simple little kind of things, to the point where again, then the conversation, then people start stirring up, well, is this just AI responding to me? Is she just using AI? And so, IGN wrote a little piece just about her responses on social and her going out there. So I posted that article saying, do I believe that AI is writing Asha Sharma's posts? No. Do I believe that an experienced gamer on the Xbox team may be helping her sound more like a real gamer with her social replies? Yes. Do I think it's a bad idea for her to try and fake it? Yes. So I put that out there, and then that tweet kind of weirdly blew up. And then Asha responded to it, and which I wasn't looking for. I didn't tag her, but I have to give her credit. I thought she gave just a super sensible response. I would still counsel her to just stay off. Don't be like Phil. Just stay off social media.
Be free.
But she responded saying, she responded to me saying, I agree, faking would be a terrible idea and wouldn't work. I also didn't expect my gamer tag to blow up, and the reality is more boring. And the quick backstory there is, like, her gamer tag was made public, and it was like just created in January or something, and she's just got like, it's a young history on that account. So she says, I created it recently to learn and understand this world. I've played with my family, and it's a shared home account across devices, which you can see in the range of games and achievements. I fixed that this weekend, and everyone is only playing on their own gamer tags. She says, but I get where this is coming from. I don't pretend to be the best gamer, and even though I'm playing, that's still not my goal. My focus is to make Xbox the best place to play, return to our roots, ship great things, and become stronger for the future. And then she concludes by saying, and yes, I'm writing my own posts with a smiley face emoji. So I want to give her credit there. I thought that was like a very transparent, just clearly honest, sensible reply. And yeah, it is a little, again, I kind of get it in the wake of Phil, this guy who was just out there all the time with a gamer score higher than any of us playing all these things, but it's not a prerequisite for the job. And so I appreciated her response to me there. I thought it was very sensible.
Yeah. Just the last thing I would say on that is, like, for someone in this position, it's important to understand the product But you don't need to be like the greatest gamer. Like I'm not going to check your gamer score or whatever. It's like, so long as you can demonstrate that you understand the product that you're trying to sell, and you have the people around you to advise you to do that thing, I think this would then becomes like it's a non-issue. It's like
the advice is the key.
Yeah. So
I did take the opportunity. I don't know if she'll see it or whatever, but I took the opportunity to respond to her response and just said, well, learning the product's great. No one can fault you for that. I appreciate the additional info and context. And then I threw out the same idea that I threw out on this podcast back when the Game Pass prices went up. And I suggested the voucher thing that I was pushing at the premium
I remember
tier.
that. Yeah, I remember that.
15 premium's $15 a month. And I said, my idea is for every quarter you subscribe, every 3 months you subscribe, you get one voucher for a day one game download. So if I subscribe and let it accrue. So if I'm subbing all year and we get to Q4, I've got 4 day one downloads, so I can download all the big stuff. All I'm saying is, if she initiates that change and if that happens, I am 1,000% taking full credit for it. I just want to put that out there right now.
There's video evidence of this now.
Yeah,
that's right. Speaking it into existence. So okay, Miranda, why don't we come back to the pin you'd put down with the Sarah Bond thing before we start to wind this conversation down?
Yeah, the whole thing there was very suspicious to me, and I think again, sort of like with Asha and people sort of having maybe some unfair gut reactions, I feel like some of the stories around her maybe have also been a little unfair. I find that whenever I see a report coming out with unidentified sources saying that they disliked someone or that something was bad, I feel like it's easier to find those people to speak to first than anyone else. And I think that's largely tends to be a little bit like you're usually getting something unfair. Having, again, seen some of those reports come out and then having dev friends who would be like, yo, what? That like misrepresents something. It really struck me that Phil was the only one to acknowledge her departure in those posts. Like, I don't think that was a good look, frankly, that he was the only one. And I think it's a good look on him, of course, because like I don't know. I feel like Phil is someone who cares, but
she's showing respect.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas the rest of the crew did not. And I think that's, I don't know. It feels like they just want to throw her under the bus for the everything's an Xbox problem. And they're like, well, our hands are clean. She quit. And it's like, that's just not an okay to handle this. It's just not an okay way to handle this. And I understand that people were unhappy with it. Yes, it was kind of confusing. But did it sort of meet where that seemingly like as an advertisement for like the direction they wanted? It kind of seems like it, but I don't think basically they treated her very fairly in her departure is kind of just what I wanted to get at and basically say, because I don't feel like that's been acknowledged very well. And if anything, the opposite has been acknowledged where other people are like, well, good riddance. And it's like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Because like, as you were mentioning, Miranda, like this gets into personnel issues. Yeah. And like, if there are issues internally with someone, like, I don't doubt that that's a possibility or that happens, but like we are not privy to that. We didn't work there. And a lot of people's accounts are going to be very different. So it's like, it's hard to comment, but also like when there is comments like, all right, like, I don't think we need to do this in particular. So yeah, it's always tricky to like, how much weight do you put in that, if any? Because all we know, there's only so much that we know. And so I think like the overall, like as you mentioned, like the optics of her departure bring up a lot of questions is what I'll say. And I think like Asha Sharma has been prepped for this position for a long time now, like many months leading up to this. So it's like ostensibly Sarah Bond knew that she was not going to get Phil's position. And so with Phil's departure, Sarah Bond is also like, well, this is also my time to get off of this train. So, and it's a career thing too. It's when if you're not going to get that position, you move on with your career and go elsewhere. It's,
Right.
and that's understandable.
Yeah.
And so whatever reason that they did not put Sarah Bond in the Microsoft Gaming CEO position is, I think that's something that will probably be more and more will come to light in the coming years and time, if that. So, but yeah, it does bring up a lot of questions about what direction they were going. If they just wanted to like kind of get their hands clean of like Phil Spencer's cabin. I mean, Matt Booty's still there. But yeah, whatever happened with Sarah Bond is, I think, the more interesting aspect, because if you want someone who is kind of the as I mentioned, one of the faces of the brands, someone who's communicated with the community for many, many years alongside Phil, it would make sense to put her in that position. But going back to something else you said, Miranda, now it's kind of like, how much influence is Microsoft, big M Microsoft, going to have on Xbox now that they have like one of their own people in that position, and not necessarily someone from Phil's era that would carry on a lot of the sentiments that he had during that time. So I think that's where the skepticism comes from, not necessarily from Asha Sharma herself or her background. It's like, is she going to be able to push back on Microsoft when the time comes? And like Phil is able to, as far as we know, Phil's done what he could to mitigate some of that for the Xbox brand and the studios there. Again, that can only go to a certain length, because eventually you have to make tough decisions about what you do with personnel and the studios under you. So I think that's where the big questions come from. But you think about Sarah Bond, it's like, damn, I thought like you were going to be the one, and if you don't get it, you resign, or you leave and you move on with your career.
Greg, you've been there. What do you make of maybe there's politics involved, or if it's just simpler than that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't know Sarah well. I've met her a few times. She's intellectually brilliant. She is a strategic mind, for sure, and very impressed my interactions with her. I would say a couple things. I think that she is the timing of. So first of all, she's been at Xbox for like 9 years, and I think a lot of people aren't aware of exactly the timing. She came in. She was more head of BD and partnerships. She accomplished a lot there. She was very integral to, as I understand it, to some of the acquisitions they did, Bethesda, Activision Blizzard, and so forth. So she accomplished a ton on that front. Her tenure as president of Xbox was more recent. And I think it was just the last couple of years, if memory serves. And that's pursuant to this whole conversation we've been having today. Those are kind of the most challenging years, right? Around the program. And so, it's some of it's a timing issue, and you could say cause and effect. You could argue cause and effect. And again, I don't have an opinion on that as to, how much of it is unfortunate timing versus some of the decisions she made. I will say, though, that it's a little unfair. I will point out one thing from a kind of an insider perspective. The Xbox Play Anywhere concept is one, and I talked about this on Lock 700. It has existed for about 20 years. That is a concept that has been around, surfacing around Xbox and Microsoft gaming since I was there a long, long time ago. And so this meme that's out there that she came up with this and it was her that pushed this solely, and I don't think that's fair. I think this is something that's been in the works for a long time as a component, but again, it goes hand in hand with another comment I have just around, which we haven't touched upon, which is about the box, no box, hardware, no hardware, which is a whole nother topic. But I will say quickly that one of my pieces of feedback is that the program needs a focal point. And I've shared this, with folks internally for a number of years now. Gamers need a focal point. They need something to rally around. Xbox everywhere is kind of Xbox nowhere. It's really hard for people to rally around something ethereal that's just kind of out there where, you can play on anything. That doesn't mean that your hardware has to be it. It doesn't mean that we have to go back to the days of Xbox 360 where you had to have this box plugged in or you're not participating in the ecosystem. I'm not saying that. hardware is used strategically nowadays as a focal point, something to rally around, an example of a reference design, if you will, for others to then build other devices around and create an ecosystem. It serves as, and Nintendo is famous at this. They use the hardware as an example, as a focal point for innovation with their first parties in terms of demonstrating what's possible and advancing the art forward. So hardware plays a really important role. It doesn't need to be.
Would the iPhone be a good analog here for what Microsoft is kind of trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think yes, but the iPhone has the hardware. They have this, right? It isn't. They have an ecosystem, yes, that is your Apple TVs and your iPads and your App Store and everything, but it still has a focal point around the hardware. And so hardware is an important part of the program. I just simply disagree with those folks that are out there saying that you can just kind of replace this. Oh, the future is all cloud streaming and it's all going to be out there and you can just get your stuff through Game Pass and it's fine. Because people still need an anchor point. They still need a focal point. And I feel like this is one of the biggest things that Asha can do is really move the program back towards having a focal point for the program in some way. Now, is that a box? Is that a PC hybrid box? Like, we can debate that. It's a separate conversation, but I think the program needs a focal point again, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely, that does.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's I kind of wanted to move to the closing statements portion of this, and Greg, that felt like a pretty good closing statement on your part. Is it kind of anything to add as we start to wind down? Thanks for checking out this clip from Unlocked, IGN's weekly Xbox show. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to watch the full episode at youtube.com/IGN Games. New episodes of Unlocked drop every Thursday on IGN Games, IGN.com, and your favorite podcast platforms. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.